Am I the a-hole for telling my dad and his stepson to buzz off? Me, 35 male, and my wife, Nat, 32 female, have recently had a child. When I was young, my parents divorced. Then when I was around 13, my dad remarried to his current wife, Lizzie, who had a son, Maddie, who was about 3 at the time. Me and my mom have a really good relationship, but I probably won't bring her up much because this is mostly about my dad's family. I was living with my mom for the majority of the time before I got my own place, but I stayed at my dad's enough to have my own room. My dad started to ignore me for his new family pretty much immediately, including sometimes not making me dinner when I was staying at his place. Maddie can't do anything wrong in my dad's eyes. For example, when I introduced Nat to my dad's family when we were still dating about 5 years ago, Maddie's first move was to tell her that he was available when she eventually got bored of me. I was pissed at him, but didn't start a fight because I just wasn't in the mood. Nat just laughed it off and said she was into older guys. Left straight after. Another example, I didn't get my driver's license until I was 27 or 28 for personal reasons that I won't list here. Anyway, I needed someone to mind my car for a few days because I was doing something with friends for a few days. Mom wasn't available, so I asked my dad. He came back a few days later and my car wasn't there. I asked why, and my dad said Maddie crashed it, so they were paying someone to fix it. I freaked out, and my dad told me that this was a good thing for Maddie because this would make him a better driver when he got his license. When I didn't immediately agree with him, I was told to get the hell out. Anyway, me and Nat have a son now, and a few days ago my dad called me a bastard because I didn't ask Maddie to be my son's godfather. Neither of them was invited to my wedding or my son's christening, and I told him he wasn't even invited to my wedding. So why was this what he was pissed about? He said he didn't care that he wasn't invited, but that Maddie was never anything but nice to me, and I should apologize. Then he said Maddie was with him, so I told him to put it on speaker, and I told them both to buzz off. Then I hung up. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He crashed your car? Like he drove your car without asking? And crashed it? And no one apologized? Or thought that was the incorrect thing to do? And made a pass at Opie's girlfriend in front of Opie. He said Maddie was with him. I told him to put it on speaker. I told them both to buzz off. Then I hung up. Like a boss. Not the a-hole. Maddie couldn't even take care of your car when he borrowed it. Why the hell would you want him to take care of your kid? Exactly. I honestly don't know why my dad thinks so highly of him. Not the a-hole. Maddie was never anything but nice to me. When? How delusional can someone be? I'm sure more has happened since they weren't invited to the wedding or the christening. Him calling over this just shows how blind he is to his and Maddie's behavior, and this impact on others. Don't let them ever make you believe that you were wrong here. Just enjoy your life, your family. I'd go no contact with him, honestly. He's done worse stuff as well. I posted about it here before. I didn't even mention half of what he's done, but it was taken down because of the stuff I said he did. I thought so. You don't uninvite close relatives from a wedding unless stuff happened. Have you thought about going no contact with them? Nobody needs such negativity in their life, though I do understand these things can be very tricky. Me and Nat are talking about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my stepson choose between therapy or living with his dad after what is done? My stepson Aaron, 17, has always been a jokester. First, his jokes were funny, but he then started using others' identities to start drama in family and friends. For example, he once texted his cousin's phone with a flirty text, and his cousin's girlfriend saw it and it got messy. He texted his uncle pretending to be his son's friend and lied about his son being in an accident. It was awful. I tried doing something about it, but everyone would say he's adapting, that it's normal teenager behavior, and he'll grow out of it. He even blamed his dad, saying he is a jokester himself, so it's a trait in his DNA. I tried to get an explanation out of him, and he'd say stuff like, dude, like, it's kind of fun, which made no sense. My final straw was days ago when I was at work, and I received a text via my pregnant wife's phone, telling me her water broke, and told me to meet her at XXX hospital. I drove her 1.5 hours and called her family, and we went there. We were shocked to know my wife never came to the hospital. I called her phone, then went home. When I got there, I found out my wife was actually napping like she does usually, and Aaron coming downstairs laughing at my face and my in-laws' faces. I yelled at him when he said he got me fooled by taking my wife's phone and texting me about her going into labor. He asked, "Oh my freaking god, did you literally drive to the freaking hospital?" My wife said nothing, but I decided I had it. I told him I was sick of his games, and he has two options: therapy to fix his issues or no longer live in my house. He complained about it being his dad's idea, but it was obvious blame shifting. He went upstairs calling me names. My wife tried to calm me down, but my blood pressure, I have chronic disease, was up and I was shaking. My in-law said I was too harsh and went too far with my ultimatum. I declined to back down because I think I won't be able to take it more. I apparently made them more upset than what Aaron did, and said I have to forgive him and drop it, but I couldn't. Thing is, Aaron is 100% against therapy and has a pretty bad idea of it. He associates it to his parents divorcing and is making it his hill to die on, and says no one will force him to get therapy since he thinks it's a waste of time trying to change his personality. About his bi dad, I've discussed this behavior with him and his response was that I was being bossy and controlling. His opinion about therapy was that I'm attempting to brainwash/change Aaron's personality and control what he says and how he behaves to get him on my side, especially since Aaron doesn't see me as a father figure to him. Of course, none of his claims are true. He even told me to my face that Aaron can do whatever he wants whenever he pleases, and it's none of my concern. But I was trying to keep communication open. Otherwise, I'd be accused of enforcing my own thoughts/decisions without Aaron's dad's input. Not day home. Your stepson is 17, not 7, and if he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong at this age, you are well within your rights to not want to associate with him. Honestly, given the lack of parenting from his mother, I would question my decision to have children with a woman who will not help her discipline her son. Too late now though, she's already pregnant. Did I question Opie's judgment in ever having children with someone who managed to raise this child? Opie not day home. This soon-to-be adult will get himself arrested for the stupid crap he's pulling. Your ultimatum is sound and fair. Edited Wed. His behavior might be stemming from jealousy of the baby. Given how immature he is, this is very likely. Not day home. It seems though, what if God is an in-law problem? Aaron is never going to change when all the adults around him justify his behavior. This one should have been the last straw for everyone, and yet they acted like it was just a funny joke. You appended your entire day, drove 1.5 hours one way, missed work, and instead of an apology, you were laughed at and berated. Yet here you are, being told you're wrong for not immediately bowing to his joke. Stay steadfast in your decision here, and if you're ostracized, maybe it's time to take a break and co-parent your new child away from this environment. Maybe in-laws and mom will realize it's a problem when he starts making newborn pranks on parents who haven't slept for 2 months. Not today, home. Your stepson is a sociopath. Those aren't jokes. They're mean-spirited. 17 is beyond old enough to know what he's doing. Plus, if you do have a chronic BP disorder, those awful pranks could kill you at this rate. I do have problems with BP and I take medications for years. It's chronic, and everyone knows about it, including my in-laws. But according to them, Aaron's laughs and giggles are worth causing an accident of some sort. Now for the next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking my son out after I cut down my trees? Original story. Hi, I'm the father of an 18 male who started choosing friends over his future when he was a sophomore. It took him nearly going to jail during senior year for him to snap out of it. He went from being a straight A student to barely passing. He only started preparing for his SAT a week beforehand, which is evident in the score he got. He applied to some colleges, none of which were his dream ones, and managed to get into a few. He ended up coming to us and choosing one of the worst colleges on his list, and saying his friends were going there. That set me off because he should not make decisions based on his friends. My wife and I told him that if he took a year off and continued to get his life back together, regardless of his new SAT score at the end of the year, we would pay for his college. But we wouldn't pay for him to hang out with his friends. He wasn't happy about taking a year off, even though we convinced him that a year is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but he didn't mention it for a while. My wife and I went on a 2-week long trip, and while we were away, nearly 10 trees in our backyard were cut down. There were some sort of sandalwood trees planted only God knows how long ago. We had left our daughter behind with our son, but they stayed a few nights with their uncle, so we instantly thought some random person cut them down to sell them. Our daughter secretly said she has an idea of what happened, but didn't elaborate. Quick security check shows our son hired a company to, badly and hastily, cut the trees and cut them into logs and planks with my equipment, then sold it to strangers. We ended up arguing, and him saying he needs money for college. I kicked him out, and he went to stay with another family member. And now my wife is upset and says I'm awful. I appreciate my son trying, but this was not the right way. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Exactly what did he think was going to happen? You wouldn't notice the missing trees? Or that you wouldn't care that he hurt your property for a few bucks? They weren't his trees to sell, and he didn't even ask. There does need to be consequences for that. Also, depending on where you are, sandalwood trees are the property of the government, in India at least, and cannot be cut without permission or sold on the open market. OP's son clearly lacks the ability to think things through or make good choices. Not the a-hole because your son is old enough to know there are consequences to his actions. However, you describe this as a somewhat recent change in behavior, going from straight A's to barely passing and making poor decisions. Did something happen? I would suggest therapy for your son and trying to get to the bottom of why he's throwing his life away. You're right that he can still get his life back on track, but remember you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. Thanks for your input here. I'd ask my son repeatedly if there's a reason for his change in behavior at the beginning of his senior year, and it was always the same answer. I'm just older now. My daughters also told me that nothing happened, other than his friends going south and him following. After his run-in with the law, I had asked him if he wanted to do some counseling with our pastor. We weren't religious, but my son likes the guy, and he said he wasn't interested. Dealing with the police would be the only traumatic thing I am aware of. It was a bit more than just underage drinking. My reaction to it probably didn't help either. And now for the update. It's been a while since the last post, and a lot of things have happened. Thanks a lot for everyone's input. It really helped give insight on my son and I's behavior, and helped when making decisions moving onward. An important thing to start off with is, we got mature oaks planted. There were 6 of them put in, and they look amazing already. They cost a fortune, a crazy fortune. The money my son got from the sandalwood covered around half the price, and I coughed up the remaining. Despite paying for them, they belong to the conservation committee who are, understandably, upset about previous trees being cut down. The oaks can't be cut down, and they will be coming annually to check on how the trees are doing. Now onto my son. In my previous post, I mentioned that his punishment for cutting down trees purely for money was to use said money for the new trees, and formally apologize to Conservation Committee as well as donate his time to them for a year. The money has been spent, and he apologized. The apology was quite embarrassing. The Conservation Committee aren't a joke. They treated him harshly, haha. For the past 2 weeks he has been working alongside them. Planting trees/bushes, landscaping the park, artificial habitats, and more. Surprisingly, the committee started liking my son and offered him an official job starting September, which he is taking. After realizing the reason for my son's misbehavior was mental issues, his punishment for disrespecting my property was changed to agreeing to everything I do regarding him getting help. After seeing a therapist, I was told my son has been silently suffering with a form of trauma for around 8 years. I only found out after family counseling that the cause of his trauma was from seeing my ex-wife cheating on me, and then being manipulated by her for years after. Needless to say, my ex does not live with me anymore. I feel so stupid for not seeing it earlier. I don't even care about the cheating, but how did I not realize my ex babying my son was just a front? Anyway, my son is doing slightly better and has picked up swimming again. He's agreed to a gap year and will be retaking his SAT. He also dropped his friends and took a substance test that showed nothing weird. It's too early to be happy, but I am. Everyone has been more open since my ex left. My son has made it his goal to get into his dream college for architecture, while my daughter wants to go to a music festival. I don't think there's anything left to add. For people wondering, my son made nearly $35,000 from the wood. Thanks again, and I hope you have a nice day. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my 23 female, dad 49 male to bring his mistress to my future life events? My father 49 male and I 23 female don't have the best relationship, but it has gotten notably worse since he and my mother 49 female got divorced in September last year. My mom and I are extremely close and live 45 minutes from each other. My dad lives in a different state than us. My mom only moved to my state after the divorce because she couldn't continue to afford to live in the state she was in, though she loved it there. The divorce uprooted her life literally. Context is important, so let me give you the basics. My mother and father were high school sweethearts and were about to hit their 28th anniversary last year. My father, however, had a problem with staying faithful to my mom. He was a military man, and my dad always had multiple relationships outside of the marriage. This has resulted in my mom contracting multiple STDs over the years. My mom kept catching him, but my dad would gaslight her into thinking she was not good enough, and that was why he would step out of the marriage. Fast forward to last year. My mom caught my dad with an escort. I decided to pack her bags and take some space from him, and went to stay at a friend's house. On my mom's birthday, he asked her for a divorce. He pushed getting it finalized as quickly as possible, and it was finalized within 59 days. A week after the divorce was finalized, my dad moved Alice into their house. He admitted to my mom that he and Alice had gotten together before he brought up divorce and had been a thing for a time. Alice is between the ages of 30 and 39, but we are not sure what her age actually is because my dad keeps changing it when asked. I've never spoken to her or met her. My dad asked me my opinion on marrying Alice, and I told him that was his choice, but that I thought it was too fast. My dad did not know I knew about him cheating. I figured it out on my own, and it was later confirmed. My mom has not moved on, and is still struggling with the trauma of the divorce. Tonight, I told my dad that I did not want Alice at my graduation in May, or wedding in September, because my mom would be there. I told him it was less than a year since the divorce, and that I knew how, more specifically when, his relationship with Alice actually started. And if he did not want to attend due to my decision, that was his choice, but I made up my mind. My dad told me it's not fair I'm excluding people that are part of his life, and that it was not my choice, and that he was trying to be open and honest with his intentions. Am I the a-hole for not wanting Alice present at these events? Edited to add, I'm an only child. My dad has a vasectomy when I was 5, and Alice had no children that I know of. Not the a-hole at all. I hope you stick to your guns in regards to keeping the mistress from major life events, but expect fallout from the decision as your dad seems used to getting his way. Congrats on the upcoming graduation and wedding though. Thank you. I'm graduating from law school in May, so at least that's the plan. Absolutely not the a-hole. If it hasn't happened yet, please help your mom to find a therapist so she can heal, get on with her life. I did. Her therapist has been away for a month, so I'm pushing her to switch to a more consistent one. I hope your poor mother received all the alimony she could, and I hope she heals from this. I'm sure it'll be easier with her caring daughter near her. She refused to take the alimony. I couldn't believe it. But she still has property rights in the house, so it's okay.